Hello all and welcome again to my Future-Proof podcast. Today I'm here with Vesela. Welcome.
Thank you, Carsten.
Good to have you. Vesela, what are we going to talk about today?
Let's talk about human-centric design and accessibility. What do you say?
Interesting. So it's about usability and software design and why is it important for the banking business?
Yes, exactly.
I love it. Let's do it. Hello and welcome to Future-Proof here in my podcast living room. And today I'm sitting here with Vesela. Welcome, Vesela. Great to have you.
Thank you.
Vesela, you are a senior user experience designer focusing on intuitive and accessible mobile applications. And I read about you, and one of your key products that you've been producing is actually used by over 4 million users. I'm very impressed, Vesela.
Thank you. Thank you.
So today we're going to talk about usability and accessibility. And let me start with one question first. Because what I often hear in this context is the word human-centric software design. Now I wonder myself, of course it's for human, right? Is this just a buzzword? Are we creating software for cats or animals? What are we doing here? So tell me, Vesela, how do you see it? Is this a buzzword or does it really have a deeper meaning in your world?
Depending on the context, it can be a buzzword. So it is a buzzword, right? And it is a buzzword if human-centric design is not used as it's supposed to be. So human-centric design, fun fact, comes already from the 40s from designing airplanes for military purposes, right? So back then, somebody thought, let's take the average of 1,000 people of their size and make the airplane this way. And then it turned out that there is not an average pilot. It turned out that none of the pilots who were using the airplane was fitting the cockpit. So they had to figure out, they had to make adjustable straps. They had to make sure that the controls are moved in a way that is human-centered, or exactly this particular human could feel there well and do what the job they need to do.
And it makes the life of the pilots easier, of course, right? And more efficient, I guess, right?
Right. Going further in history, in the 80s and in the 90s, Dan Norman, working in Apple, introduced it really and coined it as a term, human-centered design. It's sometimes being used interchangeable with user-centered design, but it basically means the same. You involve the real users. You don't make assumptions for what their needs would be. You start with the real users. So you do research, you do testing, and once you figure out what their needs are, then you start designing. You also iterate to make sure that, again, your results are meeting their needs. And then when this is used like this, then it's a real human-centered design. But only if you claim it as a marketing word, then it is a buzzword.
Of course. Excellent. Thanks for explaining this and giving this historic background, actually. I didn't know this. Now, in the context of financial applications, where you specifically work on, how would you say we are approaching the topic of human-centric design here? So we are using mobile apps or wallets, right, for interaction, for doing payments, for checking our balances and so forth. How is it employed here? Do you also have user groups, for example? Do you have certain methods you do in the design process?
So you start, of course, with the users, with their needs. We also have the business needs, right? And that's the big challenge I have as a user experience designer. I need to meet the business needs of us, of our customers, but serve the very end users. So it is not an easy dance, to be honest with you. It's not always easy that you meet the business needs and you design an interface that actually serves the end user. But you need to be very good at listening at that. So I think that's a very good skill to have. Involve all the parties. So we do definitely some tests with end users, but we also talk to our customers so we know what are the features they want to offer.
Now, let's move on a little bit to this topic of inclusiveness and accessibility in software design. And you would do a lot of effort here, I know, because the idea is, I think, to especially focus on people with disabilities, situational disabilities, permanent disabilities. And I think the notion is about getting actually 100% of all the people involved in the software experiences, no? Can you elaborate on this a little bit?
It's a very common myth that when you have an accessible app or work towards better an accessible app, you serve only people with permanent disabilities. But there, in the definition of disability, you have the permanent disability. So this is, let's say, somebody who is blind or doesn't have an arm. You have the temporary disability. Let's say you broke your arm or you broke a finger, right? And then you cannot use your phone in the way you were used to. And then there is the situational disability, right? The situational disability, an example is you are looking at your phone and the sun is shining on the screen. And this way you cannot read properly. So when you are sure that accessibility is included in the design and accessibility is a sub-layer of human-centered design, you serve 100% of your users. And this, for me, it's a great motivation, right? To learn more about accessibility and to provide the solutions I work on to be accessible.
Right. Fascinating. Maybe you can also share one or two examples. And I'm also curious, because I can imagine that sometimes you design something with a disabled person in mind, but then later it becomes generally available because everybody likes it, no?
Yes, that's it's very interesting because working on accessibility fosters innovation. And there have been many objects, many design objects and products that were built for people with permanent disabilities, but are serving still now. For example, the typewriter. The inventor who did it for a friend of his who was blind, and he wanted to offer him a tool so that he can read legible. Or sliding doors, right? Sliding doors are something that we are now very much used to, but they were built for people who have problems with mobility, so it's easier for them to enter a space. The list is huge, and another example would be the captions, right? That right now we all use when you look at the video in a noisy environment.
So caption is a really good topic that you mentioned. The other one I'm thinking about, especially in the context of mobile banking apps, we have an aging population, right? I see it with my mother and many of her environment, right? So people have much more difficulties in using apps today when they get older due to their sight, their ways of working or acting. How do you see this? Is this also becoming an issue that you can solve for?
Yes, definitely. So when you allow examples from my work, when you make sure that the text has good contrast towards the background, when you allowed scaling of texts, right? I basically serve myself because, first of all, I do wear glasses, so I need glasses. So I have actually a permanent disability, but the population is aging, so we'll need to serve the needs of us actually in the future, right? So my motivation is making sure that the text is readable and legible and all the content that's on the app is visible for the user, is serving, again, all the users in the end. But you make sure that also the aging population can benefit.
Right. Because in this world, in banking, I think we will see less and less people going to their home bank physically, right? And will be more moving into the digital world.
Yes.
So accessibility here is a huge impact and actually a requirement, right? In order to do business in the future.
Right.
You know?
And this is what you want to offer people, right? They want to do the task easy and not complicated. And this is how you build trust in an app. Instead of them taking their time, going to the office, finding when are the opening hours of the bank so I can do the job. No, they just open the bank. They can block their card or make a transaction or adjust some setting. So when they go on vacation, they can do this payment in a very safe and easy way. And this is how you want to do it, right? You want to serve people and waste kind of least of their time
Absolutely.
and possible.
So talking about age is one thing. The other one is also how to reduce complexity in the financial world, which at least for many layman people like me, appears complex, right? How do you make it easier? Is there also a way in the usability design here?
Let's come back to human-centric design. There is a law in user experience that says the user can perceive maximum 7 bits of information on a screen. So what do you do there? You break down the steps the user needs to do. Let's take the example of making a transaction. You need to enter IBAN, recipient, the amount. So what you can do is distribute this information in a couple of different screens so that the user can focus on the one step which is right now asked from her.
Very good. From all that we've now discussed, it appears to me usability design is good business for financial service industry.
Yes.
No?
Yes.
Do you think that the financial service industry looks at it like we do?
There is this also common perception of the more time you spend in an app, the better it is for the business. And to be honest, when it's about financial services, I don't agree with that. I think the measure we can take is how successfully you come from point A to point B. And this is how you build trust. You reassure the user, right? Your money is on the way. There are no steps necessary needed, right? And then the user can switch off their phone or put it on the side and do the things the user wants to do. So I think this is a much better measure, successfully coming from point A to B.
I like that you use the word trust here, because that means it's also an emotional component in a purely digital process that is important and that needs to be addressed in the design.
Yes, and we started with human-centric design, we added the level of accessibility, and then there is another aspect, another final granularity called designing for real life. Right, when it's about a financial app, there is always some anxiety connected to this when you need to do an action, right? Like looking at your sensitive data, you need to make sure that nobody is watching, right? Or transferring money, So it is very, very important to take the emotional state additionally in consideration of the users using the app you're producing. And this way you can build even more trust.
So Vesela, you mentioned the word anxiety. That brings me to another topic, security. Sometimes these transactions have to be secure, right? It's what I demand as a user because I don't want my personal data to be compromised. But is security now creating a conflict with usability and ease of use? What do you think?
Yes. Security and accessibility do clash sometimes. So security demands, please make sure that the user has limited amount of time to log in, and this way you prevent fraudsters from entering the app. And accessibility says, make sure that the user can prolong this time. Make sure that there is a button that says, please extend the time with few more seconds. We need to take, actually, both in consideration. If this security case is so that you can enter the app and switch on biometry, this way, next time when you log in, you will not need to wait for the seconds, right? You will be automatically log in. So there are ways sometimes to kind of exit this clash and have them both win.
And I remember how it was to do e-commerce transactions a couple of years ago, where I had to type my credit card number and my expiry date and everything. And it was quite cumbersome to do the transaction. And nowadays, it's usually with face recognition, 3D Secure is employed, and boop, there's my transaction. So they've become a long way here, no?
Yes. Do you remember some years ago, you would receive a list of 10 numbers sent by post, and you'd be able to use one at a time? And this is how you would log into the web banking back then. But now we have the apps, right? You just take your phone, face recognition, you can check your transactions, you can arrange some settings of your card, you can put down the phone and have the job done.
Good thing we live now.
Yes, I'm also happy about that, right? Life is less complicated.
Excellent. Now, when I think security, I immediately think regulation. What are the regulation frameworks we're currently seeing here, and how are they affecting this usability design?
Regulations are affecting not only usability, but also accessibility. And I'm happy actually that there are the regulations who says that, because it makes sense to make sure that all services that serve, like when it's about transport, when it's about banking, that they're all accessible. So we do need to follow the regulations, but I see it as a very good thing because regulations actually foster this way innovation. We need to follow them, but this way we also serve actually all the users, because that's also another thing, another byproduct of having your design accessible, that the code gets more clean, you have much better visual language, right? And better clarity. So again, back to this, serving 100% of the users.
So Vesela, we really touched a lot of topics now in the realm of usability and accessibility. Now I wonder, if I'm a banking executive, so how do I get started? Do you have some advice here how to put theory into practice?
Of course. When it's about usability and about accessibility, especially about accessibility, there is the golden rule. There is the WCAG, golden standard, which actually provides you with all the definitions of how you can make your product accessible. You just need to follow the steps.
So do you say now I'm using the WCAG standard and that gives me already a list of what I should do? Or would you rather say, let's follow a certain methodology and to go from where I stand now to a future step which is much more interactive and accessible from a user perspective?
You use the standards in order to get there. But of course, what you need to do is you need to educate all the people who are implementing these standards, right? So talking about education, like we all need to do our homework, and it starts with executives, but it's also, of course, about my colleagues, user experience designers, developers, but interns. But everybody in the chain contributes to better accessibility. So we all need to do some learning, which is great.
And I guess it's a journey, right? So I guess you mentioned, I think earlier, user groups, which give you feedback on what you have designed. And I guess there are other do's and don'ts in the process, no?
Yes. You can always use external audit agencies to work with. So these are people who audit your services and give you feedback. So involve the users, involve all the users, not only your usual users, but also people with disabilities, to get feedback of, is my app working?
Right.
And you'll get there. I promise you.
I'm happy. I'm a happy banking executive now.
Yes.
So Vesela, okay, I can do all this wonderful education of my teams and get the experience up, but I don't have so much money and time to do this. Why don't I just use experts? I heard G+D Netcetera does some stuff here, right? So what do you think? I just outsource it.
You can, right? You can do that, but you'll miss out on a lot of opportunities. You'll miss out on a lot of innovation and a lot of knowledge that can bring your products on the next level. So, of course, involving people with disabilities in the process, and this can be an external company. Ideally, you have people with disabilities working for your company and supporting you internally, right? And helping you. You can already test if this is working for them. And through this, having the knowledge in your company, you are sure that the products you deliver serve back what we talked, 100% of your users. So don't miss out on an opportunity. Do this. Do your homework, Carsten. Let's do this.
So I hope our listeners also do their homeworks, and I think it's a great advice. Thank you so much, Vesela. Vesela, now we learned a lot about usability and accessibility from a true expert like you. And at the end of my podcast, I always wonder, what makes you tick? Why is this such an important topic for you personally? Because we really see how you burn for the topic. Tell me about this.
What I love about my job is doing this dance, is making sure that the needs of the business and the end users are met. And this might be a challenging dance sometimes, but still, when I see the users, the end users, using my app, all these users you mentioned in the beginning, in the introductions, this makes me very happy. So this is why I love my job.
Okay, so it's a Vesela-centric feeling that is now elevated, right?
Yes, right. This could be a new term in design.
Very good.
Yes.
Hey, Vesela, that was a blast. Thank you so much for being in my podcast today. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I hope all our listeners.
Thank you, Carsten. It was great talking to you. Thank you.
Great. And thank you also all for listening. If you like this podcast, like, subscribe, and comment. And until next time, I'm wishing you a good time. See you again on Future Proof. Take care. Hey Vesela, so good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Let's record a podcast today. How about that?
Let's do it.
Okay,
Right.
great. Let's go.